Sorry about that. I think we had a connection interruption. White might get in rook b1 to b5, and then later queen a1, and that's the same way that me and Garwin actually shared for playing this position. Kick the queen and try and get the queen on a1, but I don't think that's as good as this other plan that I played last night, which is just actually to play the seemingly computer-like move queen d4. Queen d4 is quite forcing. And now, how many of you have played from this position? Anyone? After queen d4? Do you think it looks quite promising for white? This position? Anyone? So white's got the bishop pair. They could be terrible. If black gets a pawn back, there's going to be a c-file disaster. The endgame is going to be terrible. So the idea of queen b4, exactly, there's time to play queen b4 because black has to do something about the rook on h8. So black plays knight f6, but black is hitting the pawn on e4. Okay, so this represents a pawn sacrifice, but it repairs the pawn structure, doesn't it? Queen b4, if black takes now, he's repairing the pawn structure. And I think Charles Story mentioned actually to make it a gambit, forget taking on b4, because this gives that long bishop and it repairs the pawn structure. Maybe just queen c7. I think this is what Charles Story mentioned, and it's not so clear cut. Actually, this might actually still be playable. But this idea actually, I put it into an engine state, and it actually liked this idea as well. This queen d4 to b4. Okay, so I thought I had a small advantage here. Oh, quick! Someone's saying queen c7 is the old move here. The new move is knight c6. Okay, cool. Wow. So I think taking on b4 is thanks Joe fan Joan. Okay, so queen takes b4, c takes b4. I sacrificed the e4 pawn, but the pawn back because I thought this bishop was going to be great fun to have on this diagonal. But first I kicked the knight back, and then I put the bishop on the diagonal. And I notice here actually this is really comfortable because black's pawn is virtually pinned now because tied down to not pinned, just tied down. It can't move without f6 dropping off. So so what did black do here? Black castled now, and now I played simply knight f3. And also the benefit of this bishop is actually protecting the rook at the moment in any case. So if there's an a5, I can play a3 and I can still have the rook protected by this bishop. Okay, so he plays knight c6. And also I'm conscious also that maybe at some point b5 and the control of e5, but that didn't happen. I just played a3 here. And okay, he undermines now b6, the logical move to undermine the chain and to free the position, and also make these pawns more dynamic. So c takes b, a takes b. So what do you guys think of this position? Do you think white has a small advantage or not? Small advantage for white? Anyone? Come on, I want some evaluations from you guys. Is white better for the two bishops, or black's better for the... Is he going to get these pawns going anytime soon? Small advantage to white, Davy Gravy, yeah? And some live stream guys think white Okay, cool. Okay, so I thought I was in a really nice position. Okay, so what happened next? I castled, and he played bishop b7. I didn't see many threats on the horizon here actually, because I thought also, look, I've got this blasting e-file. I've got targets. I can get both my rooks to the centre here. These guys are going to be in trouble in the centre. I'm just going to plonk my rooks. Actually, this is quite an aesthetic look to it, this position, isn't it? Get the rooks to e1 and d1. What do you think about that? e1 and d1. Quite aesthetic as well, yeah? So that's the general plan I had here. And actually, it was very well lit up at the club last night. This is from last night, 2 30-minute games, by the way. I didn't actually say the league. It's a 30-minute league, the Baum Trophy League. So it's been played in Hertfordshire, and next week we're playing another local club. But yeah, it was kind of well lit up, and I was very, good lighting and a great position makes for really enjoyable chess here actually. So I've got a lot of pressure building up on Black's position. So I just plonk one rook quite aesthetically on e1, and now the other one on d1. Okay, and now after d6 I pick up on a sensitive target in Black's position here, because remember this e pawn is still constrained, unless he's going to play e5, but then d6 might be weak. So what target would you pick on if you had the position here with white? Is there a particular tactical target you might try and probe in this position? What particular tactical target would you say is good for white to pick on here? If you had to coordinate two of your minor pieces on something, what would be a great target? Anyone? So David Gary, you're saying Black probably has to gain tempo somehow because he's behind the development. Okay, but White's play, David Gary, what would you pick on here? What weakness in Black's position? Okay. Some live stream comments. F6, Bishop C5, B6, F6. Interesting. B6 pawn? Oh. Really? You guys are not biased to crushing kings then? What about f7? This f7 weakness. No? Why can't you pick on f7? So I started pointing things at f7. I played bishop c4, immediately threatening the rather crude knight g5 to get to f7. Because if there's e6, then, there's that. If there's e5, then, there's that. So this is not so simple. Although Black should have just retreated the rook soon. After knight d7, if I play knight g5 immediately, then knight e5 hits the bishop and defends. So I retreated the bishop here. And I guess this was a major blunder, b5, because now it's very, very attractive to play knight g5. Okay, you should have just moved the rook here, back. I think just defending, but instead, remember it was only 30-minute chess. Instead, he played knight d e5. Okay, can you guys spot a major combination here for white to increase advantage? Tactical combination. So how do you break through to increase the advantage here? Can anyone spot combination? F4, someone's saying. I was considering f4, actually. David Gravy said something quite interesting as well. So let's consider f4. Now let's assume that you try f4. I thought there was a problem with this. Actually, I thought black would be getting back into the game after f4. Well, actually, black can also consider maybe knight c4. Maybe that justifies the pawn here because it shuts down the bishop. But apart from that, actually, that's a pretty good move, isn't it? Knight c4. But also, I was actually considering. I didn't actually spot that. I was thinking just h6. Because I thought if takes, takes. I can't take on d6 here because of the back. No, I can't because the king can come out. Anyway, so I miscalculated that. I just thought, hang on, there's a bit of play for black. But in fact, indeed, there might be a bit of play for black here. Forget rook e1. What about rook e2? Is there a bit of play for black here? You don't want this counterplay, do you? G2 might be vulnerable. Although that still might be better for white. But I didn't like the look of it intuitively. It was just 30 minutes each. It was just there was 2 rapid play games last night. So this is the first one. So okay, there's a bit of a miscalculation here. But I thought, yeah, there's the more clear-cut way of playing this. I thought, forget f4, which was just to play the more simple bishop takes e5 because it's fairly forcing. Bishop takes e5. So knight takes e5, and I thought this was very forcing. Rook takes e5. Which someone has spotted. Well done to the person that spotted that. Okay, I think this is just clean. This because I'm just taking now on f7 with I think it's a significant advantage because the structure's like really fractured now. It's not just the pawn, and the rook's kind of more active than the black rook. So rook d7. Okay. There's a bit of game left, but it's difficult for black to try and get some counterplay here. But he tries. Bishop f5. So I'll try and shut down the bishop now. How would you guys approach this position out of interest? What would you play here? If you had white, so you're almost winning this, but not quite. So what would be a good move for white here? I'm not sure my move was that great, but I wanted to sort out the king a bit. Maybe prepare the king for the end game to get into the centre and try and cut down that bishop. So I thought the next move was okay. So control says f3. P Cooksey says f3. Vrana c4. Okay. So some people are saying c4. So f3. I think f3 was my kind of favourite here, actually. So I played f3 because really I want to kind of get the king in, maybe to e3 later. But also then there's g4, and also there's knight e4 supported. Say the knight was kicked, could go back to e4. So f3, he plays actually, he kicks the knight, so I'm immediately using that now, knight e4. And now we go into a more simplified position. Actually, he took on e4. Okay, and this becomes easier now. So the king tries to come in the game. But I play this this next move. I want to sort of reduce actually the flexibility of the king coming across. So I wonder if you can spot what I played here. I'm not sure it's a brilliant move. But how would you stop black making use of the e6 square for the king? What would you play here if you had white? Would you be going for the b pawn, or would you be concerned about the king? What would you do here? Actually, it's probably many ways to win this. Matter of preference. There's an advantage to white for sure now. So okay. Okay. Okay, any ideas? Okay, yeah, some ideas on the live stream. The checks and stuff. Rook c6, rook b7, rook b7 from Sheriff El Sayed. Okay. Well, I actually played check. I chose this one because I wanted e6, so the king couldn't use e6. I'm not sure it's that brilliant, but actually in the event he just played king g5. So I want to still restrict the king, so I played actually here another restriction move. So what would you play here with white, if you had white in this endgame? Another restriction move. Anyone? Okay. On live stream, some votes for g3, king f2. I played g3 actually, yeah, g3. Okay. So the pawn got attacked, and now here I went on counter-attack actually. So you've got a choice actually between rook c3 defending the pawn, or rook c5. What would you play here? Because rook c5, you can try and grab two pawns here. So what would be your preference in this position? Rook c3 or rook c5? Okay, I wasn't. Okay, I'll tell you why I chose actually rook c5, because actually I thought this was kind of passive, this rook c3. Well, actually I'm also blocking in the pawn if you think about it. I've just blocked my own pawn with that rook, so that's not a very common sense thing to do, unless I'm going to play like rook b3 later. But then again, this pawn would be doing a good job of restraining pawns. So maybe then rook c8 and I'm in big trouble, because then I won't be able to like move either this one or this one. It'll be dumb. As an example, let's just check that out. So say give black a waiting move. This would be a really ridiculous position to have. This one, wouldn't it? Be ridiculous. These two pawns just held up by this one. So yeah, I went for rook c5. I think that's the more active. And actually he protected his e5 pawn, and now I took on b5. So I've got the potential now for two connected passed pawns. So I was pleased about that. So he took on a3. And now finally I got my king a little bit in the game. So I played the move king f2. And he actually attacks my pawn. But then I thought I've got a neat defensive move here. So what would you play here as white to defend your c2 pawn? So white's play, you just play in this position. Yeah. Okay. Right. So on live stream, yeah, common agreement. Rook c5, just defending that c2 pawn. Okay. And it doesn't matter about the double pawns. That's a bit of a risk. You might think, oh, double pawns, it's like losing a whole pawn. But here, it doesn't matter. There's a very powerful Zugzwang coming up. So, and after takes, the funny thing is about this position, this king can't quickly, grab this pawn, can it? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So my king can come to the rescue now. So king e6, my king comes to the rescue of the pawn. And we've got a Zugzwang coming up. I can exhaust the black moves now. So h5, h4. Black's running out of moves. And it's trivially won now, because now after king c5, I'm just coming into that d6 with decisive effect. And he resigned. Okay, it wasn't a very complex game. It was just a 30-minute game from last night. It wasn't the most amazing game of all time, but I hope you got something from it. There's another game after that, which is a lot more tactical, and he had a lot more chances actually in the second game. And I think he was much more in his opening comfort zone. But let's have a quick overview and summary of this game. So the sniper system, maybe this is a semi-decent idea to pick up for your own games, possibly. I don't know about you guys. What do you think about D takes C5? My opponent he's about 130, going up to about 150, I think, next season. Paxton. No, it wasn't Charles Story. so D takes C5. So what do you guys think about D takes C5 anyway, from a theoretical point of view? Do you think this is an interesting thing? D takes C5. Is this game makes you convinced D takes C5 is the way to go? Actually, I did check with a major engine on the market who, I don't know if I can say the name on ChessBase server, but sort of related to Ribka clone Houdini. Yeah, kind of like D takes C5, Queen D4. D takes C is critical. You might think, yeah. Okay. D takes C5. So this Queen D4 to B4, I thought it was kind of neat, giving back the pawn. So I had some restraints going actually. If you think about it, it's restraints on the black pawns here, and these files are just going to be in white's favour. So that's what happened. I just plonked 2 rooks on E and D, and then just work on B6 is a potential vulnerability. I prefer F7. So I prepared for attacking F7, and he should have really played Rook F8, but he didn't. So this little combination, and we get a technically won position. As long as I don't damage my pawn mobility, yeah, doing something extremely dumb with the rook. So I get the pawns going basically with this counter attack. I win B5. That's an important pawn to knock out, and then we have the Zugzwang king and pawn ending. So we'll go on to the next game, which is intensely more tactical. And we'll probably might have to go overrun the half an hour on the second game. I'm going to have to load it. I'm going to go to chesspo.st to get the PGN and paste it in here. I had the PGN prepared from earlier. So the second game of the 30-minute is coming up. So this is chesspo.st. Okay, I'm just going to get this game and get the PGN. Whoops, not download PGN. Get the PGN. ChessBase. Paste. Okay, flip the board. Okay, I was black D4, D5. I played D5. And he plays the Trompovsky, so Bishop G, not Trompovsky. This is actually technically, without the knight going to F6, it's Levitsky attack, isn't it? Does everyone know that? Levitsky attack? Is that right? Levitsky attack, Bishop G5. So you're not waiting for knight F6. So there might be a slight problem with not waiting for knight F6. The problem being I might not play knight F6. I play something else. I just attack the bishop. So I just attack the bishop. I play F6. I don't know what you guys think. There's potentially chronic light square weaknesses, isn't there, with F6? That's I think maybe Hodgson played the Levitsky attack as well. Got to watch out when you play F6. You're going to think the light square weaknesses. So he played Bishop H4, and I played probably a mistake. I think this is really great for white. This looks like a natural move to try and get central control, especially since I've been raving about D4 square control in Nakamura's Blitz victory over the weekend. I thought, yeah, d4, you know, target d4 here. So how would you target d4 as black here? If you were playing black in this position, what would be the natural, you know, like move to play here? Any ideas? So you've just blocked up f6. You can't use it for a knight. Right, I played what I thought was a natural move, but actually the previous week this guy had smashed me up when I tried a 4 board simultaneous. There's only 4 boards and he smashed me up with the white pieces in this system. So he's obviously been, maybe he's been going over a lot of games of the late Tony Miles. I think there's a serious issue with the move that many people are suggesting. There's a very, very serious issue, and I can't say I find it that funny, this issue. It's like a reverse Albin counter gambit after c5, because white, guess what white plays to get a reverse Albin counter gambit going? White does not have to defend d4. What does white play here? Clue, reverse Albin counter gambit. Right. Bang. e4. I think the position's not that good actually for black. I don't think this is that good. White's got an advantage out of the opening, I think. Straight away. Reverse Albin counter gambit. So I take. I mean, what am I going to play here? Am I going to really play e6? I guess I should have considered e6, considering the game continuation. e6 doesn't look right for some reason. You know, for a start, there might be dangerous checks. You know, maybe. Okay, so I just take now d5, but I did notice something about this position. I've played this kind of reverse Albin counter gambit once earlier in the year in the Hearts Congress, and I had a crushing victory against someone, but they had trouble you know, moving the e-pawn. But here I noticed something. So what can black play here? What do you think is a good move for black in this position, considering? But I still think white's got a, you know, a very dangerous position here. So what would you play as black here? Anyone? Well, I thought, hold on, the queen's not protected by anything apart from the king, is it? So e5. Just play e5. Okay, so if I'm sorry, I'll just take, and that'll be great. So he plays knight c3, but at least now, you know, I've got the bishop. I can go to d6. I've got a blockade square, and here I play actually an attacking move. So I don't know what you guys think of this kind of quasi, you know, attacking move. What would you play here as black? Do you think black might be okay here? I don't want to let white castle queenside in a hurry, because like queen d2, you know, castle queenside could be horrible. So actually I tried to distract from that. Control, you've said e4, queen a5. I think, see, like queen a5, you can imagine like queen d2 and white's going to castle queenside. Okay. I think Queen B6 is good. Sorry, after Knight C3, I think Queen B6. So he plays actually a very passive move, and it gives me a lot of hope now. He plays actually a Rook B1. I thought maybe, you know, White would gambit the B2 pawn. So if he played Queen D2, this might be risky. This sort of position, you know, for example, like this. Bang. That looks fairly unpleasant. And there's no like Bishop B4 because, you know, that pawn. But he didn't do that. He just played a passive move. He didn't play Queen D2. That's why I think, you know, White was better here. But he actually played Rook B1. I thought some of my worries are over here. So I protect the pawn now. Because I have this idea that if I can play Knight D7, then I'm going to try and castle queenside even. So I was getting kind of optimistic now. But I think I immediately, like, blunder. Well, after his next move, F3, I think, well, the engines are saying like E3 is a good move, and I think I had some problem playing E3. I thought, you know, maybe White just rounds up E3 with Queen E2. Or something. But I think there might be, this might be okay, you know, C4 maybe, just to play Bishop C5. So I played probably a terrible move. E takes F3, and White's getting compensation now. He's getting a lead in development. He's getting this knight out. His bishop can come back here. After this bishop, you know, goes, he can castle, basically. So White's going to get back in the game. He doesn't have to castle queenside. In that scenario, this pawn is actually pinned to the queen if the bishop's there, and then B4 actually makes sense for the rook as well. So with one move, I've made the whole position work out really well. By not playing E3, all of White's pieces make sense now. Okay, so that was a bit unfortunate. So E takes F3, Knight takes F3, so I play now Knight D7, so I want to try and castle queenside. Bishop D3, look at these light square weaknesses. After Bishop D3, of course White wants the light square bishops off. E6 is still vulnerable. And what about the E4 square as well? It's dangerous. This is really dangerous. So I didn't immediately feel the enthusiasm to play Bishop takes D3 here. I played actually Bishop G4. But this is potentially giving the F5 square, because if this bishop is forced to be kicked back, Bishop F5, and this is actually what happened. So Bishop F2. Still, and also I had a few other concerns about the position, that I can't even play Queen C7 without laying Knight B5. So I played actually A6, thinking, you know, maybe this is the time B4. And instead of B4, White actually just castled. So now I snuck in Queen C7 with a bit of relief. You know, that B4 can now be answered by C4, or just takes, and I'll be on C3. So a bit of relief there. But now comes H3, and now Bishop F5. So look at these light squares. I'm being skewered on the light squares. If I castle, I'm still potentially in trouble with B4s. So I wasn't really that enamoured by the whole position here and the whole opening. I don't know about you guys, but it seemed to go downhill after C5. What do you guys think? This Levitsky attack seems to have a lot going for it. Well, the way it was played in this game so far. you know, this is really dangerous stuff, you know, coming out of bishop g5. Horrible. You know, I couldn't even play my king's engine, could I? Can you imagine? d4, knight f6, bishop g5. You know, maybe, you know, g6, he just takes on f6. So this bishop g5 early is quite a dangerous thing if you're thinking, you know, reverse Albin counter gambit. Okay, so this is not looking good. So I castle, and now knight e4. So I try and get my king out of danger with king b8. So I'm unpinning actually that knight. So pin and win, unpin and try and draw, or something like that. You know, fortunately, you know, he wasn't playing too energetic with like pawn set. He just played c4, give me another move. So I thought I'd get this bishop off this diagonal. So I played g6, but he keeps it on the diagonal. And then I had this thing. What about f5 and e4? I thought, hold on, f5 and e4. I'm back in the game, but it starts to get actually quite tactical now. You know, very, very tactical, very, very quickly. So knight g5 and now e4. So who's winning this one? You know, I've got this dangerous like pin here, maybe take here. You know, discover attack against the queen. But on the other hand, he's got knight f7s. You know, my rooks are still in the bay, in the loading bay here. So what do you guys think of this position? It's starting to get a bit hairy, isn't it? Who do you think's better here? Anyone? Do you think it's complicated? Slightly complicated? Very complicated? Okay. He plays g4. You're not supposed to move pawns around your king. You know, this could backfire on the g file later with this king here. But I take on f3. Takes. And now, actually, I think I play a reasonably good move. I play knight e5. Just to try and get in bishop d6 to try and get these guys connected at some point, communicating with each other. Okay, so bishop g3, still looking nasty. Bishop d6, unpinning again. Okay, so knight f7 is not working yet. No, knight takes f7. But actually, you know, he wants to gain his pawn back, so he took on e5 and now took on f3. And he's still got this major threat now of knight f7, you know, forking the two rooks. And I was wondering about this position. I think, strangely, this might not be the only move, actually. I can't check with an engine now, but what I played seemed quite sensible at the time. Last night, how would you defend this f7? Actually, talking about f7 from the previous game, how would you defend f7 here? What move would you be? What move would spring to mind here? You want to connect the rooks and you want to defend f7. So what would you play here? Okay. Right. I just play the move knight h6. Seems sensible enough. Because the knight's okay, it's on the rim. Knight's the rim, but it's, you know, if I just want to get this g file, but at the moment the g file's not working. That bishop's eyeing that square anyway. So queen e2 was played actually. So I threw in a check. And now I was really getting happy with my position for a change. Rook he8. I've got my rooks. Finally, I've got my rooks connected, like in the previous game, in fact, together. And now, queen d2. I think it had the idea not just maybe attacking h6, but I think the main idea was to try and shift attention to this side to get b4 into to get an attack. David Gravy, you said Houdini says knight f6 to go for a fork on d2, believe it or not. Actually, that's very interesting. Let's just go back to that, because yeah, I was prompting you to say knight h6. How does this work out? Knight f6. So say knight f7. Are you saying, David Gravy, knight e4? Is that the idea? That you aim for knight d2? Is that really happening? So say knight takes d8. Isn't this looking quite complicated? I didn't see this variation myself during the game, but I guess here it's dangerous for white. If queen f2, bishop d4, skewer time. If queen g2, you know, knight takes. So yeah, I mean, okay, that looks good as well. So maybe that was possible, just knight f6. So the knight's kind of on the rim. It's a bit dangerous here in this variation. So maybe it didn't need to be. Amazing. So in the game continuation, so I throw in a check. And now I play this bishop f6 because I want to try and actually use this pin on the queen. I want to play rook takes e6. And it's about here. It started to get quite complex. Well, or so I thought. But maybe it wasn't. I think there was a clear killing move round about here. He played actually the move knight e4. And what would be the clear killing move, do you think? What would you play here as black? Anyone? What would you play in this position? So you've got two pieces attacked. Maybe there's b4 on the horizon. What would you play here? Some people are saying rook e6. David Gravy, next control. Rook e6. I don't know why I didn't play rook e6. it looks like an obvious thing to try. You know, rook takes e6. For some reason, I thought it'd be more clever to just retreat the bishop. But of course, he just puts the knight back here. So in this position, yeah, if I want to do something constructive, I think I was put off by this move. Knight takes f6. Thinking, you know, in this position, I think the reason was I thought, you know, if I take, then he takes here, yeah? So what would happen in this position then? What would you play here with black? No checking with an engine. What would you play in this position with black then? Or is this not the right continuation anyway? Rook e6. I thought the engine was saying this position was winning for some reason. Alright, someone check this with an engine. What is the killing move here? I actually don't know myself. I thought it was something like g5, strangely. But how can it be g5 here? Couldn't the white queen just take on g5? The knight's covering g8. If knight f7, what about just knight takes h7? Isn't that any good? Or is there rook h8? Maybe that's the thing. Knight f7's looking interesting, isn't it? So David Gravy, you're saying G5 is the engine move. Is that what the thing is? G5, is that the engine move, or knight F7? If we have a look at G5 for a sec, what's going on here with G5? The knight, it's stranded, isn't it? It can't go back. You can't take here because of the knight. Can't go here because of the pawn. Can't take here because of the queen. But what about queen takes G5 here? Is there some tactic going on, a deflection for the G file? Is that what's going on here? Is it rook takes F6? What would you play here with black? Any ideas? Or is there another deflection going on? Well, there's a few routes in here. Let's look at two. Is rook F6 not doing the job? Check. Where does the king go? Maybe here. Is this dangerous? That looks pretty dangerous, but was there a defence there? Maybe king F2. Then would the checks run out? It still looks dangerous. Actually, just about defending. I don't know. That looks to be pretty dangerous as well. You know, rook takes F6. Would you not agree? Rook takes F6 does look dangerous. Yeah. But some people have mentioned other stuff as well. So somebody's mentioned this. Rook G8, knight takes G8. So what would be the meaning of this? Is there any meaning of this, or have I? Is this nonsense, or has black got something here? Is it a rook E2 trick now? Check there. Not really convinced by that myself. Okay, so I don't think rook G8's a useful defense. Rook takes F6 looks to be quite useful for me, just to coordinate on the G3 square actually, to get rook G8 and then the G3 square. So anyway, that was probably the meaning behind G5. It's to be within the scenes of the game, which I didn't really explore G5. So I thought, you know, did we exactly reach this position before? Well, I repeated, in effect we repeated. So knight G5, but did we exactly have this position? Hang on, let's just answer that. I don't think we had that exact position with the bishop, you know, coming just there. Okay, so in this position, slightly different. I nab a pawn actually, G takes. I'm just thinking the G file. I've got to use the G file against the king, surely. But I do give him time to try and get an attack going with B4. But now I notice, hang on, G3 is a bit vulnerable here actually. So guess what move would be good here to try and highlight the G3 weakness? Anyone? You want to try and highlight G3? Come on guys, this is easier. There's nothing majorly tactical here. Okay, H4, yeah? H4. So he protects that. And now I start to use the G file. I want to kick the knight, so I play bishop F3. So I'm actually now threatening takes and rook g8, because the knight would actually be protecting g8 for a skewer. So that exciting skewer coming up. But now it gets crazy again, because he plays knight e4. And he's attacking both my pieces again. And there's a pin on that as well. And I was starting to get short of time as well. But then thankfully I notice a useful move here. To try and like win a piece. So what move would you play here with black? Anyone? Okay, you might think there's the rook takes e6 going on, but I think maybe queen takes, because if takes, then there's takes here, and if takes here, then there's takes here. Maybe, mind you, rook g8 does look very dangerous there. But no, I thought this was even simpler. I just play check. I just throw in a check. Patzer sees a check. Patzer plays a check. Yeah, check. Right. So king h1. And now again, I thought, hang on, this is getting really complicated again. Maybe. I had some concern about something here. So I can either take on e4 or e6. I decided to take on e6. I think this might be playable anyway. F takes e4. Because check doesn't quite work here, does it? Bishop e5. And I'm still a piece up. So maybe either way is okay. So I take on e6. I seem to be just a piece up. Would you all be in agreement, or have I messed up somewhere tactically? So he takes on f6. I'm a piece up now, and the check I can put. The thing to avoid here is rook d6, because then takes and I'm losing my rook. And the thing not to be worried about here, actually, is to be self-pinning. I think I might be able to get away with the self-pin because of this knight f7. On the other hand, it's not that pleasant after takes. It's not as pleasant as all that. So, but anyway, that didn't happen, thankfully. So after takes, he just took, and he didn't play the check, he just took here. Okay, he's ripping open the b file. I play queen e5 because I'm thinking the centre, the centre might be good. I've got that pin still. I want to stop queen f4 check. He plays actually queen b4, and he's away from the centre now. So I've got this great central control going on. So theoretically, this queen's much better than this one. But I have to defend against the mate threat. So rook e7. Now he plays c6, and I finish off now quite neatly. So what would you play here now to finish white off? It's not. It's quite obvious as far as relative to other moves so far in the game. So finish white off. What would you play here? Anyone? Okay, just queen e4. Because the rook's defending against the mate. Okay, so I'm just hitting two rooks as well. So the king moves, and now just check it is absolutely crushing here. So king f2 in the final move. I hope you can all spot. So just queen e2 mate. So let's just quickly look at that game in summary. It was much more tactical, tactically rich. So reverse Albin counter gambit gave white a very good position, it seemed, and I was a bit lucky really how it turned out the game. But maybe, you know, I should have played e3. I think technically that's a much better move, e3. So I gave white a lead in development and a strong attacking position here. So I thought maybe I was going to lose this, but now it started to get very hairy. But I kept this blockade, okay. And now, with my rooks connected, I always feel a bit cheered up. I don't know about you guys, but with the rooks, once they're connected, don't you feel a lot better with your rooks connected? I do, anyway. So, check, and then tactics started. Not very complicated ones, just this check here using the G file. Then he managed to, like, he gave me a piece generously. So that was the end of that. So I hope you enjoyed those two games. I hope you got something from them. Any comments or questions in the next couple of minutes? Otherwise, see you next week. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that. The PGNs will be at Chess Post if you want to play through the games. So thanks very much. Okay, cheers guys. I'm going to stop the broadcast any second now.